Hey everyone, this is Katie Sweetman with Empowering Astrology, and this is your weekly live look at the astrology. It's February 8th through 14th, 2021. Again, my name is Katie Sweetman. I'm an astrologer and psychic medium here in Brooklyn, New York. I work under the name Empowering Astrology. So we gather every week, not just to look at the astrology, but as I say over and over again, the astrology is 50%. You are the other 50%. So how do we get these two halves in alignment? How do we best work with the astrology, whether it's difficult, whether it's not difficult, and understanding that the zodiac is sort of this step-by-step path, this ladder to understanding ourselves, understanding the world around us, understanding each other. So here we are, it's Aquarius season. And at this point, we've gotten to the end of the zodiac, almost to the end of the zodiac. Aquarius is the second to last sign. It's the 11th sign. Come, let's say, February 18th, when the sun goes into Pisces, then we'll be at the end of the zodiac. But we are in the part of the sky that is talking about life on a much larger level. It's not about the self. It's not about relationships on a one-on-one level. It's not about family, unless, for example, Aquarius is a sign that does talk about that for you. We'll talk about that later on in our time together. But how do we now look outward? Aquarius is a very outward looking sign. And as we start to get to the end of the zodiac, we start to feel its two sides. And something that maybe I've spoken here or spoken about in the work that I do, that every planet and every sign has two sides. So you have this one side of Aquarius, this almost mythical side of Aquarius, this 1960s side of Aquarius, where it's about peace and love and understanding and humanity and collective. And, maybe this is all going to work out if we all just stick together. Well, that is one side. It's a very highly idealized side of Aquarius. And there's the other sides, the part of us that we all know, because we're human beings, when we feel disconnected, we feel separate, we feel like we don't belong. That's the other side of Aquarius. So when we get to this season, maybe it feels a little lonely. Or maybe it's the season where you really do feel, whether it's conscious or unconscious, pushed to reach out to friends. Maybe you are making new virtual groups. Maybe you are reaching out to colleagues and networking. I know it's kind of a funny time. We're all living on Zoom these days, but Aquarius is science and technology. So it is a time where we can feel very much zoomed out from life and very far away from the ground and the body. And I think that there are some things in the astrology this week that's reminding us that even though we will at one point on Thursday have 6 planets in Aquarius. It's a lot of planets in one side of the zodiac. But then you have Mars and Taurus, you have Uranus and Taurus as well. And I think that that's the thing that's pulling us back to our bodies. We can't get so zoomed out, so in our heads that we kind of forget about our feet on the floor. So let's kind of talk about the bigger picture. I'm just kind of seeing some familiar names in the chat. Thank you for joining me this evening. If you're watching on the replay, also say hi. I know some of you are here in the United States with me, or maybe you're in Australia, New Zealand, or South Africa, or other places in the world, Canada, neighbors to the north. So, say hello, tell me where you're watching from. As I say over and over again, I can't travel. I will have to travel through you. So what I tell people is astrology is about time. It's about how we live time, how we build and create with time, and how we grow older through time. And here we are, we're in a season where it is about the bigger things in life. And how do we start to look at time, like our time on this planet, our time with community, our time with friends. So this is a time when we're also seeing two parallel stories start to come forward. Something I've spoken about in previous weeks, and I've spoken about this even in some of the writings I did last week. I said that in 2018, 2019, a story began. And I know some of you see it. It's very obvious. Some of you are like, I don't know, Katie. Or maybe there's a little bit of anxiety. It's like, well, what if something happened then that's bad? Is it because I'm going to have bad luck or bad things happen to me? No. But something began. It's a story. It's a different act. And sometimes stories begin with a little bit of a dramatic beginning. So if you go back to May of 2018, March of 2019, thereabouts, and things were happening, it's because we had some big planetary shifts right about then that were trying to open up a new chapter. And sometimes we need a push. Sometimes, and one of the planets that we're dealing with right now is Uranus. It's in Taurus. It's been in Taurus since May of 2018, March of 2019. So it'll be in Taurus for another 5 more years. And what it's trying to do, kind of to an earlier point, it's trying to get us out of our way. Taurus is the part of the chart where we are the most rooted and grounded, where we want the most stability, where we want the least amount of change, because it's a sign that by its instinct and by its very nature wants to preserve life, wants to keep things the same. That is a great instinct up until a point. Just like every sign has certain instincts that work until they don't. So the Taurus part of our chart, and you're thinking, well, I'm not a Taurus, Katie, or I don't have any planets in Taurus. Well, Taurus is a part of you somewhere. You are all 12 signs of the zodiac. So that part of your life typically wants it to be the most rooted and grounded and stay the same. But you have a planet there since 2018, 2019, that's been actually doing the opposite. It's saying that part of our life has to reinvent. It has to be 100% authentic to who we are. We have to get out of our own way. We have to get out of our ruts. We have to get out of these limiting patterns. And maybe if you go back, and for some signs of the zodiac, you see a dramatic start to something. The story I tell everybody over and over again is that 2019, March 2019, I left my IT job to do astrology full time because I had to be true to who I was. So that was my dramatic beginning, but maybe you're looking back, you're like, oh, nothing happened, Katie. Sorry. I don't know. Maybe it's a very subtle story. Maybe it's an internal shift. Maybe it's a shift in belief. Maybe it's a shift in how you see things. Maybe it's a shift in spirituality. Maybe it's even a shift in just how you take care of yourself. Maybe you made changes to your diet or resolved to get back into your body, because that could also be part of it. So this is a time when we are feeling that tension this week. That part of our life, the part that Uranus is in, the part that's Taurus. And I went through this last week, so I think it's worthwhile to go back and rewatch last week's broadcast. That part of our life is feeling a push, a tug, a conflict with another part of our life, like these two corners that have different agendas and different needs right now. So this week we got a lot going on. I already alluded to a new moon later this week. We'll start with the astrology today, Monday, February 8th. We are now at the midpoint of Mercury retrograde. So when the sun meets up with Mercury retrograde, Kazemi is the fancy traditional astrology word. It means that we're at the midpoint of the retrograde cycle. So we got 2 more weeks to figure our stuff out, so to speak. Mercury is in Aquarius right now. Mercury is a sign of ideas and information. It's the sign of choices, discernment, analysis. So we need to walk back on things. And I know Mercury retrograde has a very reputation. What is a reputation for shenanigans? But at the core of this time is we have to go back. We have to reflect. We have to integrate. We have to see our choices from a new perspective, or take a second look at maybe ideas or information that we thought was the way it had to be. Maybe it's a different way. Every planet in the sky, except for the sun and the moon, turns retrograde. Mercury just does it the most frequently. That's why we notice it more. But it reminds us that we can't always go forward. It's like the tide. The tide goes in, the tide goes out. So right now the tide is pulling back. It's not pulling in, or vice versa. So we need this time to reflect, to integrate. Mercury retrograde, any retrograde, is more of a yin phase. It's more about, kind of going in and reflecting and, like I said, seeing things from a different perspective. We can't, we have to kind of walk back to where Mercury was in the middle of January. So we're sort of going back to events that were happening in the second half of January and the beginning of February. Maybe we're having a conversation that's long overdue, Mercury. Maybe we are reconnecting with an old flame, an old lover, so we can tie up loose ends. That's the thing about Mercury retrograde, is people from our past tend to come up in droves because something's unfinished. Doesn't mean that if a romantic person comes into your life, it's meant to continue. Maybe not. I don't know. That's up for you to decide. But it's just something to keep in mind. I don't typically get very worked up about Mercury retrograde. I know it's a thing, but I know that everybody is like, oh my God, Mercury retrograde. And we just can't ground our lives to a halt for 3 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks, 3 to 4 times a year. It's a lot of time. So just do your due diligence this week. Know that, again, we have 2 more weeks of Mercury retrograde. Mercury goes direct on February 20th. So that said, Mercury is in Aquarius. Mercury is joined by a lot of planets in Aquarius. Right now, we have the Sun is in Aquarius, because Aquarius season. We've got Mercury. We got Venus. Venus is in Aquarius. Got Jupiter in Aquarius, and I feel like there's something else. No, that's it. But we're going to have the moon in Aquarius starting on Wednesday, February 10th. So when the moon goes into Aquarius, we're sort of, let me rephrase this. We're sort of between two things this week. We're coming to the end of a lunar month. So it's called balsamic moon. It's a time that we are not meant to necessarily start new things. It's more about integrating and reflecting and looking back at something that we began on January 13th, because that's when the last new moon was. That new moon, by the way, was conjunct Pluto, meaning it was in the same place of the sky as Pluto. So this was, I think, a lunar month where we really had to clear some space. Pluto, it's kind of like the plumber of the zodiac. It kind of reaches in and it shows us what's in the way, and it could be something that's a little unpleasant to look at, but it's trying to get us to do that deep psychic work, to let things go, to transform. So I think that was a theme that went through the last 3-4 weeks. And I think it's all to prepare us for this coming lunar month. We have to clear space in order for something new to come in. And so maybe you're using today, tomorrow, and Wednesday to clear some space in consciousness, meaning doing it with your awareness, with choice, not doing it out of instinct. Maybe you're reflecting, maybe you're looking back at the things that changed and shifted in your life since January 13th. So we have the new moon on February 11th. It's going to be at 23 degrees of Aquarius, 2:06 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Don't make me do the mental gymnastics to convert that into all the time zones. But it will be early morning on February 12th in Australia and New Zealand. So I know this new moon is the start of the Lunar New Year. So if you are celebrating it, Happy New Year. For us astrologers and for us with the zodiac calendar, we're not quite at the new year. The astrology new year is the spring equinox on March 21st, or plus or minus a day. But nevertheless, it's, for some people, it's a time of really new beginnings. And I think even if you don't celebrate the Lunar New Year, this new moon, it has 6 planets in Aquarius. So there's 6 planets and one part of your astrology house, your chart. And there's a crowd, there's a party. Maybe it's a social distance party, but there's a lot of things happening in that one part of your chart. So we'll go through really quickly through the 12 signs, so you know what part of your chart you have this new moon in. So if you are an Aries, this new moon is happening in your sign of friends, community, humanity, society. It's a place in your chart where you need to network with people, maybe professionally network, because Saturn is there. Saturn's your career planet. Maybe it's a good time to reach out to friends. Now, 2020 might have been a little brutal with friendships, or maybe, you got really close to some friends, but the people that were a little bit more secondary or tertiary, it was harder to stay connected to. So maybe you are using this new moon to rekindle a friendship, to reach out to your social circle, your social network. Maybe you're even, like I said, doing professional networking or getting involved with some sort of group or community. This is also a part that has to talk about the future. You spent the last 2 years, Aries, looking ahead towards the future, working on your career and answering this very simple question, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? So maybe you made some big achievements in the past couple of years, and then now you need to use this new moon to identify new goals. Okay, now where do you want to be 5 years, 10 years, 15 years? I realize things are a little weird in the world right now. It's very difficult to make hard and fast plans. So we do our best. We're like, okay, I want to head that direction. So that's it for Aries. Let's now look at Taurus. So Taurus, this is your career sign. You've got 6 planets hanging out in your career sign. So if you are a Taurus, this is the time of your zodiac calendar for you to focus on your professional life. So maybe you need to make a career change. Maybe you need to get a promotion. Maybe you need to make some big changes in your professional life. There might be a lot of things happening in your professional life. And maybe if you don't, have a job, maybe this is your time to really reach out, to network, to see who has opportunities, because this is a powerful new beginning. And something that I said last week, you have Uranus and Taurus, your sign, until 2025, 2026. So maybe you need to make adjustments in your professional life so that they line up with your, this new person, this new you, which is really the real you, that's starting to come out. I would also use this time to, what are your goals? What are your ambitions? What do you want to achieve? This is a part of your chart that's very much like the most visible. It's the most public. It's the highest. So it's very much about status and achievement and the role and responsibility that you play in the world. So you might feel like you have a lot of responsibility going on. But I think with Saturn there, the more that you take that step up, the better. That's just my personal opinion. I always say, do what Saturn wants. Because right now Saturn is saying, like, what do you want to be when you grow up, Taurus? And maybe you want to be something completely different than you've been doing the past however long. Maybe you really like what you do, and now you need to do it next level. So this could be very much a next level new moon for you. Gemini. So this is the part of your chart that talks about faith, truth, and meaning. External faith, the meaning that you find in books, philosophy, wisdom, knowledge, university, college. It's very much about higher education as well, and even foreign travel, which I realize is a little bit difficult at the moment. But this is a new moon that's really trying to get you to define, what do you believe in? How do you see the world? What is your philosophy? What is your truth? And you might have a lot of big ideas right now. Do keep in mind, this is the same for every sign of the zodiac, but there are a lot of, Aquarius is what's called an air sign. It's not a water sign. I know it looks like a water sign with the little squiggly symbols, but it's actually an air sign. It's the last air sign. It's about it's not information like Gemini is an air sign. It's about these ideas, information that form something bigger, ideology. These kind of bigger systems, science, technology. So this also could be something that is related to you as well, Gemini. But it's a very existential new moon. So maybe you're kind of thinking about big ideas. You're looking out in the world. Maybe you're looking out towards different cultures, different perspectives, different ways of doing things. Maybe taking classes right now. Maybe you're focusing on higher education or even planning to go back to school. Your planet Mercury is retrograde right now, so no need to worry, but it just may mean that you have to wait till after February 20th to kind of be able to move forward in the way that you would like to. Cancer. So Gemini in the brain. Aquarius is in the part of your chart. I call it the eighth room. It's the room that you have to go to through in your astrology house, where we all have to go to at one point in order to face ourselves. Somebody once said to me, what does that mean? What does it mean to face ourselves? Well, in life, we have to face ourselves at some point. We cannot grow, we cannot transform, we cannot get to the next level, whatever that means, unless we do the work. It's like you don't grow unless there's pressure, or this confrontation, or somebody makes you feel something that you didn't even know you could feel. So it's a very psychological place, psychological room. It's a very much a place of deep emotional work. And I think Cancer, I'm not saying this is going to be the case for all cancers, but I think this is a time when you're being led into an internal space, and you need to you need to work with somebody. I think it's a little hard to do this work on your own. I think we need the guidance of a counselor or a therapist, or somebody we really trust to be able to open up and to connect with ourselves. But it's a time when you may be feeling very vulnerable, very real, very raw. Maybe you are seeing things and connecting to things within that you have not connected to. So this could be the new moon that you are committing to your emotional health, taking care of yourself emotionally, your psychological well-being. It's also a new moon that does talk about wealth and finance and taxes, benefits, shared resources. So you might be doing your taxes, you might be looking at mortgages, loans, finance and wealth, and financial planning in general. So it's kind of, yes, that's the same room as the psychological stuff as well. Leo, so Aquarius is your relationship sign. You got quite a crowd in your relationship sign. If you are not in a relationship, this might be a time when people are coming in, whether it's a romantic partnership, whether it's partnership in general. This, of course, talks about all relationships. It's a time, Saturn is there as well. So this is a big new moon for you. You're in a 2-year phase of having to really make your relationships tip top. Saturn's very much a long game planet. It's like, okay, the people that are in your life, who's going to be with you through thick and thin? Who's going to be with you in the future? This may mean a serious relationship come in. This may mean a committed partnership happens. Maybe you and a partner have a conversation, and maybe there's an engagement, maybe there's a marriage. If you are in an existing relationship, there's a lot of emphasis on other people right now. It's a little bit not what you want at the moment. It's about what a partner wants. It's about what an intimate partner wants. It's about what other people want, and you're having to negotiate the needs of other people. So you might feel a little bit lost in a crowd at a moment, Leo. So I'm sure that it's helping you to open up to these other connections that need to happen right now. Leo, especially with Mars in your career sign, this could be a new moon that really pushes forward this new story that started to come in 2018, 2019, one where you are reinventing your professional life. Virgo, this part of your chart talks about health and wellness, organization, projects, details, the sort of things that you are known for, Virgo. So this is your new moon to really focus on yourself, focus on how you take care of your body, focus on the sort of routines and structures of your everyday life. I know it doesn't sound very glamorous, but it is very necessary. It's like if your day is not flowing, it kind of can create some chaos and maybe even create some physical chaos, some anxiety. So how do you start to get your life in order? Maybe it's making changes to diet. Maybe it's making changes to fitness or taking care of your body. Whatever is the right thing for you, of course. It's this part of your chart is very much about health and hygiene. So maybe you are attending to health and hygiene. It's also part of the chart because Aquarius is there. Sometimes I see Aquarius highlighted when it's about alternative health. So maybe you're using this new moon to get a new perspective. Mercury is retrograde after all, but to get a new perspective on your health, get a second opinion, look at different ways of approaching the same problem. And maybe the most successful way is not a way that you would have considered. Maybe it is an alternative health thing. Of course, not a doctor, can't tell you what to do. And maybe you're also starting new projects, getting a handle of your schedule, getting a handle of your home life, all those things. Libra. So this part of your chart talks about self, but it's self on the level of identity, creativity, and how you express who you are. So you are a few months into a bigger 2-year chapter of getting very serious about your talents, getting very serious about who you are, getting to define what makes you you. There is some tension that's happening with this new moon. I think I spoke about this in last week's update, where you have to sort of face the parts of you that are getting in the way, big time, like self-sabotage. So Libra, where have you been self-sabotaging? We all do it, not just picking on Libra. But where do you start to see your shadow at play, the part of you that is working against you, and the part of you that obscures you from being able to express who you are? This could be a fear. This could be something from the past. This could be something deeply rooted in your psyche. So nevertheless, this is a time for you to really play, have fun, create. It is a time that is about children, because children kind of help us connect to that very youthful, expressive energy. Maybe you're starting a new creative project, Libra. Maybe you're starting a family. Maybe if that's, you want children in your life, it's just something to keep in mind. But nevertheless, if you have a talent, and that talent is gathering dust at the moment, Saturn really wants you to dust off that talent and put some effort into it. So this would be a perfect new moon for you to do so. Moving on to Scorpio. So Aquarius is the bottom of your chart. It's the roots, it's the foundation, it's the family, it's home. Without family, without home, we feel rooted and groundless. We need that sense of connection, both on a physical level, but also knowing that we have people. We have like an inner circle. We have people we can rely on. Scorpio, you are in a time of your life where it is about settling down. Doesn't matter if you are 25 or 75. You have Saturn at the bottom of your chart. Saturn saying, okay, you've entered a season of your life that is going to continue for the next however many years, where it's about other people. You've sort of spent the last 15 years, 15, really focusing on you and your career and defining who you are and taking action and being the leader. But now it's about other people. It's a whole other 15-year chapter. I know Saturn works in these 15-year chapters where it's about other people. Funny personal side note, I'm Scorpio, and I'm family is coming into my life, even if it's not my blood family. I know my blood family is probably watching. My relatives are probably watching this, being like, "What is she talking about?" No, but I was hanging out with my friend who might actually be on the chat tonight. I was with her family, and I just remember thinking, "Oh, Saturn's in Aquarius. It's about family." And I mean that because you can see family from all different perspectives. You can see how other families do it. You can see what connection looks like through other people. So that was just kind of my own personal little light bulb that went off. Maybe you're a Scorpio and you know this yourself. Sagittarius. So this part of your chart is about your voice, communication, ideas, information. Now, Aquarius is a very intellectual sign. So you might have to show your intellect. You might be actually teaching a class as much as you might be actually learning right now. But it's a time for you to really take your voice seriously. That's what Saturn wants you to do over the next 2 years. So this new moon is giving you a chance to be heard. Maybe you are writing something. Maybe you're publishing something. Sagittarius is the sign of publishing. Maybe you are teaching something. Maybe you have to really take authority of your voice. And like I said, there's 6 planets in Aquarius right now. Maybe you have a lot to say at the moment. This part of the chart does talk about information, news. Maybe you're getting news, maybe you're receiving news. Mercury is retrograde, so it might be something that is a piece of information that you didn't have before, or maybe a missing piece of information. If you are making big decisions right now, just because Mercury is retrograde, do your due diligence, do your investigations, do your looking at things from both sides, and maybe you do have to wait until February 20th when Mercury goes direct. This part of the chart does talk about movements, trips, travel. So you'll have to see how that applies to you during these times. It's typically a part of the chart that talks about things that are local, like going out in the neighborhood or going back and forth on road trips, but kind of live in strange times at the moment. So see how that, of course, applies to you. Capricorn. So this part is about money, income, material stability, material wealth, things that you own, the things that you don't own, but you need, and you actually need to get the money to buy them. So this new moon is really putting a big spotlight, like I said, crowded house, in one of your money signs. The other money sign is Leo. So maybe you're buying a lot of things right now. Maybe you're trying to gather what you need at the moment. Maybe you're really thinking about value. Like, do I need to spend money on this? Is it really a value? Or maybe you're doing a lot of investment right now. I know that some Capricorns are making some big investments at the moment, but it is a time to really do, Saturn is in your money sign right now, will be in your money sign, and you are Saturn ruled. Saturn is your planet. So Saturn wants you by 2023 to really get your material life in order and to get very clear about what you need to feel safe and secure and rooted and grounded in this world, and to get very clear about what you value, because what you valued a couple years ago might not be what you value at the moment. And maybe there needs to be some updating. Like I said, there's some tension with this new moon. It's not bad tension, but it's tension that's trying to create and to bring something into manifestation. It's tension that you just might have to resolve. So Capricorn, like I said, material stability, material worth, and even self-worth, and how something as simple as self-worth can affect the dollar sign or the whatever sign that you put on things, or you put on your time, or you put on whatever. So maybe you have to resolve that conflict. Aquarius, you've got a crowded house in your sign. If you are an Aquarius, there might be a lot of things going on in your life right now. There might be a lot of people showing up. The planets, in a way, can show up like people. Maybe it's a very busy time. Maybe it's a time of new beginnings, because Aquarius, when Saturn went into Aquarius, Saturn is your planet, on December 17th of 2020, you started a 30-year cycle. And you're like, wow, 30 years. But the Saturn-ruled signs, Capricorn, Aquarius, their lives sort of go in these much bigger arcs because they are Saturn-ruled. Saturn takes 29 years to go around the sun. So Aquarius, you and Capricorn, if you're still listening, you have these 2.5, 3-year chapters every time Saturn changes signs. So right now, Aquarius, you have Saturn in your sign. It's a time of new beginnings. It's a time of getting older. It's a time of growing up, no matter what age you are. Saturn, in a way, is looking over your shoulder for the next 2 years. You have to reach a higher bar at the moment. If life is a mess, unfortunately, if Saturn is looking over your shoulders, Saturn's going to really want you to get that mess in order. For example, I'm sure Aquarius, you don't have that problem. If everything's fine, how do you take it to the next level? How do you show leadership? How do you show authority? How do you be the person that somebody looks up to? Maybe people are giving you a lot of responsibility at the moment, but like I said, it's a busy time. You have all these planets. And if your birthday is now, meaning it's on the full moon, not the full moon, it's on the new moon, so it's like February 11th, plus or minus a couple of days, it's a big new year for you. It's a time of new beginnings. It's a time of fresh starts, new leadership, new action, but one where you might see a big difference between the birthday you celebrated in 2020, which feels like another planet at this time, versus the birthday you're celebrating now. Nevertheless, this is your new moon, Aquarius, so it's time to make wishes for the future, to look ahead, and to sort of make the intentions that you want to make for this coming personal year for you. Pisces. So last, final sign of the zodiac, Pisces. Aquarius is your last sign. It's the sign that talks, you've sort of come to the end of your personal zodiac calendar. So in a way, this is like the end of your personal year. It's the time to go back and reflect and to see what worked and what didn't work since your birthday in February, March of 2020. Again, also feels like another universe at the moment. This part of your chart is the most quiet and the most spiritual part of your chart. So you might need to do the necessary reflection, the necessary existential reflection. This is a time when you need to find answers and meaning and truth and wisdom and knowledge, but not from a book, not from external sources. You need to find that wisdom, truth, and knowledge within. This is also a time to shed the past, to let things go, and to make space to prepare for your coming birthday, which will start on the 18th, so next week. Then we go into Pisces season. So how do you get ready for your personal new year? This new year, Jupiter is in Aquarius for most of 2021. It's a more spiritual year. It's a more reflective year. You will have a couple of times in 2021 where Jupiter, your planet, Pisces, dips out into Pisces. It goes into Pisces, I think it's May, the end of May, 2021, and then it goes back into Aquarius, I think it's like July 28th, 2021. So you have your feet or your little fishy tails between two worlds right now. Make sure you kind of stay rooted and grounded, of course. But this might be a time when you're also feeling your intuition very strongly, your dreams very strongly, those little hunches, those gut reactions. So cultivate that, get that stronger connection to your spirituality. So this is the new moon for you, all 12 signs, and I get this question all the time. You always ask, which should I listen to? Listen to both. If you're wondering what I mean by both, for most people, they have a rising sign that is different than their sun sign. If you're born at sunrise, your rising sign and your sun sign are the same. So if you are a Leo, but you have Pisces rising, listen for Leo, listen for Pisces, and you will think, okay, well, which one is better? Which one is more correct? They both are. Because you are a multidimensional being and you kind of exist in these parallel times and structures. So that's the new moon for the 12 signs of the zodiac. And for you to kind of see what new beginnings are opening up for you over the next 4 weeks. Do keep in mind that, as I said earlier, this new moon period, especially as we go into next week, we'll talk about that, something that began in 2018, 2019, a new life. You sort of have one foot in that new life, and you've still got one foot in the old life. It could be quite literal. Sometimes it's a marriage. Even when the marriage is over, you're still trying to figure out how to end it. It could be an old job, it could be an old home, or it could just be an old mental or emotional or spiritual way of being. A lot has shifted. Even, I know I said the last 2 years, but even in the last year, since this time, 2020, a lot has shifted. And maybe something new is opening in a way that's exciting, or it's scary, but it's necessary. And we're going to feel that tension this month. And like I said, it's not bad tension, but it's sort of like these competing sides of your life, these competing corners. And how do you kind of get them all to flow? That's ultimately the root of Aquarius season, is the need to find balance, the need to find equity, need to look at the systems and networks of our lives and put them back into order so that life can flow. So that is the astrology this week. I know it's Valentine's Day week. Happy Valentine's Day on February 14th if you celebrate this. There's a lot of planets in Aquarius, so maybe you're reaching out to friends. Maybe you're spending Valentine's Day with friends. Maybe you are doing a lot of self-love and self-care. We have a very kind of luscious Venus-Jupiter conjunction on the new moon. It kind of takes us into the weekend. Venus, of course, planet of love, relationships, value, worth. We have Mars in sensual Taurus, so maybe it's a weekend, especially with that Pisces moon, you are really taking good care of yourself. So really awaken the senses. The thing about Aquarius is it's so in the head. It's not a complaint, it's just we have to point out the obvious. There's a lot of planets in a very mentally driven sign, very analytical sign, which is great, except sort of lopsided at the moment. So how do you take care of your physical being this weekend? How do you love your physical being? How do you create more sensuality? How do you get off whatever this is, Zoom, get off your device, and spend time with yourself, or make yourself a meal, or smell things, taste things. Mars, like I said, is very, very, Mars and Taurus, very sensual. And Mars will, I think, be making a sextile to Neptune this weekend. So it is a time to kind of let go of past hurts, especially old grudges or old broken hearts that you're holding, past loves, past relationships. Mercury is retrograde, just let it go. So that is your astrology this week for February 8th through 14th. Just quick housekeeping note. I think I put the link. I should have put the link. Maybe I forgot to put the link in the show notes. I did a interview with astrologer Stormie Grace. We actually did a look at the astrology of February 8th through 14th. She calls the segment Eat and Greet. So, got to meet me or greet me, talk about my background as an astrologer, but there was supposed to be some more food. I made some brownies. I didn't get a chance to eat them during the video, but I will put the link in the show notes if I haven't already. Check that video out. Anyway, you can follow me. Also, the links are on Instagram. I'm Empowering Astro on Instagram. Of course, Facebook, Empowering Astrology. Follow me, empoweringastrology.com. Book a consultation with me. You can join my mailing list. And I look forward to connecting with you all next week. Also have in the links, links to the February 2021 video horoscopes. So thank you all for joining me every week. I love to see familiar faces and names, and we're kind of continuing this story and journey together. So until next week, bye, take care.